Hello everyone and welcome to episode 30 of Music in the Minor League. We did it. We made another 10 episodes in. I know in the past we always did some list for 10 and 20, but we didn't even realize we were at 30. So this week we said to heck with all of that and we just did a regular episode. So what's this regular episode about? Well, we sat down with Eric Pearce, who y'all may recognize as the voice of Mixed Media Radio on KTRU. That's 96.1 FM or online at ktru.org. You may also know his name from being an artist from Burning Bones Press. You may know him from some of his art rock bands he did. Or he may have been your teacher somewhere here in the Houston area, as he's also an art teacher. So Eric is pretty well-rounded, so there's a lot of places you can know him from. He also did a lot of flyer art, things like that. Like Eric's works a lot of places. We were really grateful to sit down with him and talk about art, his connection to the music scene, how art correlates with music, things artists can do to make sure they get their artwork into their graphic artist correctly. So before we get to the interview, let me run through our housekeeping and we'll get to all the information and have some fun, man. So what do we have coming up? Well, Saturday, we will be doing an early performance at Baytown's Christmas on Texas Avenue. Apparently, they wanted bummer folk singers to come out and do some songs, so we're going to do that, man. We're going to bum it out right before the end of the day on Saturday. We'll be there from 2:45 to 3:45. Then we're going to pack up, and Kim and I are going to do a duo show out in Midtown for a So Far Sound show. Still not in the area where we can tell you the location, but it is Midtown. So we'd love to have you out. If you message one of us, we can get you a free code. Just let us know if you want to come out. You don't want to pay anything, let us know. We'll get you in if you're one of the first 2 people. Next week, we're going to have our end of the year show on December 16th at Ronnie's Hog Heaven in Dickinson, Texas, with Junebird, who you've heard on the podcast, the March Divide, who you've heard on the podcast, and Grifters and Chills, who once again, you've heard on the podcast. So it's almost like a Music in the Minor League end of the year kind of celebration. So we'll call it that. It's also going to be the last show that we do before John Stoll has surgery on his knee, so Grifters and Chills are gonna have to hang it up for a few months while he recovers from knee surgery. It will also be Kim's first show after she leaves her job, so no longer will she be working for the state of Texas. She'll be taking some time off to be a student and musician, so come out and wish her well and come hang and hear some music, man. Starts at 9 p.m., 8 p.m. doors. We'll be out there a little earlier hanging out. Just come celebrate the end of the year, man. No, we're not gonna be doing long sets. It'll be run by pretty quick, probably 3 hours. It'll be done by midnight. Love to see you there. All right, enough of that. Let's get to it. To kick off this episode, since Eric doesn't have a band of his own, we're going to use our new single called Chips Will Saturday Night to get the episode rolling. Y'all enjoy it, man. We'll see y'all in about 2 weeks. Later.
Daybreak comes with a sin from last night. Scenes we regret exposed in the morning light.
Ashtray, broken mascara, and with tears. It's the same old hangover we've been fighting for years.
Slow it down and spin slow. Lonely lovers don't know when to let go. There's one thing I know, it's the more you make, the more you blow. Parked my car around the tree outside. It's nights like these you feel lucky to get home alive.
For every step forward, you know they knock me down twice. You can have the fucking pie, man, all I want is life.
Slow it down and spin slow. Lonely lovers don't know when to let go. There's one thing I know, it's the more you make, the
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Music in the Minor League. Today, we are here with Mr. Eric Pearce of Mixed Media Radio and various art projects. I don't know, still doing stuff at Burning Bones Press. Still doing things at Burning Bones Press. Also, musician, of the past and everything.
Oof.
We're bringing that up today.
That's a very loose use of the
So
term musician.
It's one of those times where you talk to someone who does things in music outside, just perform it, and even sometimes, rumor has it, performed it
in the distant past.
Thanks for coming to talk to us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me over. I appreciate it.
We should point out that Eric was kind enough to have our very own Mr. Michael Helfenstein on his show recently, where he talks to people about music and art. So is it people do you bring guests on who are artists that also play music, or is it?
I think Helfenstein here was the only really crossover person so far. Although I do have, my eye on one or two other guests that I would like to have, but I would like to have more musicians, more bands on. That was part of my original design for the show, to kind of balance it out between visual arts people who want to talk about music, or bands coming in that want to talk music, but also throw in a little visual arts to it, because I don't know, I don't want to make assumptions about what y'all do, but musicians have their album artwork, they have just the visualizations that go along with their merchandise and their stage show and everything. So there's always like a visual element to music and to bands when you're performing that I'm interested in also. So
flyer art's a huge thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I forgot about that. And one of my favorite things are gig posters and stuff. So
I actually have a pretty extensive collection of Eric's gig posters.
Oh yeah?
Yes.
That's cool.
And also, one of the gig posters I ended up playing the venue that was on the gig poster.
Oh, from the Dead Horse.
Yeah, the Dead Horse. Yeah. You gave me a Flame Trick Subs poster you did for them.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What's this place?" And he's like, "Oh, I think it's a friend of yours."
Yeah. I had a friend that we worked together in Austin at a movie theater, and we were both projectionists at that in those days. And this guy named John Cobb, this great guy that moved out to San Angelo, and his in-laws opened that place, the Dead Horse. So he was working there, and okay. I took advantage of that opportunity to make posters, because they were just starting out as a venue, and I was like, oh, I've always wanted to do gig posters, try to do that more, but I found it hard to find a way to get an in with people that needed gig posters. So I took advantage of that and made maybe 5 posters for them when they first opened up their venue, and had a great time. It was fun. And
the venue's still open. I checked today to make sure. It's still...
Nice.
Yeah, I need to check on them, because I haven't talked to him in a few years.
Yeah, it was cool, because, we was in the Grizzly Band. We ended up booking a show out there, and man, it was a great venue. The venue itself is just really cool. It's in the heart of their old downtown area, and it's got a great vibe, great sound, and they pay well. Mm-hmm. It's one of those gigs, they know you're driving to the end of nowhere, so they compensate you for it. And on top of that, there was this really cool hotel we stayed at that had, hands down, the greatest breakfast ever.
Oh, Helfenstein's obsessed with breakfast.
Dude, scrambled eggs, got it. Bacon, got it. Sausage, got it. Biscuits and gravy, definitely got it. Hash browns and country potatoes. Legit. 10 out of 10.
Was this a Staybridge, or was it a independent hotel?
I believe it was an independent. I will look it up, but legitimately it was top tier. I would make the 6-hour drive out there again just to stay there, so we could do that.
Shocking.
You always try to remember those places.
Heck
but
yeah.
the first time that, when we put together a tour, your reaction is always, oh good, that place has good food.
Yeah. Because I don't drink.
Yeah.
As someone who doesn't drink, it's what other vice do you have? And I'm I like food.
Food is my addiction.
Right, exactly.
That's on your agreement. That's
it is.
On your rider.
It's my rider.
But I need country potatoes or whatever.
And don't threaten me with a good time.
Should be our next album cover. Should just be a photo of Helf's breakfast on the road.
Oh my gosh.
A compilation of photos.
My Waffle House order.
See, there's where the album covers come in and stuff.
There it is.
Right.
That's my.
But see, that kind of works, because talking about wanting to experiment with gig flyers and things, it's probably never hard to find an avenue to experiment with when you've got musicians who are just like, the only thing I got for the 6-hour drive was country potatoes. It's like, yeah, I'll do some, I've been wanting to try to do that. I'll do some free flyers for y'all. Like, yes. You will totally give you some money, part of our door, dude, or whatever. It's like, here's your dollar, bud.
Right. If we remember to have a door guy.
But yeah, I've been like working at Burning Bones Press in the Houston Heights here. Carlos Hernandez is one of the co-owners there, and he's just done so many gig posters. Like, he is one of the like premier gig poster guys,
yes,
from Texas, like in the Texas area, but I think known throughout the country and everything. He's been an inspiration. That was one of the things that drew me to Burning Bones, like wanting to work over there. It's been, the pandemic situation like made it really difficult for not just performers, but also all the people that are involved with it, like doing the gig posters and things like that. But it's starting to come back around and starting to revive. So hopefully you'll see more of those designs coming out of Burning Bones.
Yeah, Carlos' stuff is amazing, man.
Yeah,
and I actually have one of his pieces too.
Yeah, and he's so down to earth and so cool about everything. Like, It's just a pleasure to work with him. I think that's maybe why he's been successful getting jobs and working with musicians and working with promoters and, getting jobs to do art, is because he's just a pleasure to work with. Like, if you work with him once, you're going to want to go back and like get him to do another design in the future. So, yeah,
I think that's where people miss the mark, is when they're not easy to work with. Like, you can be all talented all you want, man, but if you're a jerk, that makes it around pretty quick too.
I've been really fortunate with the people that I've had on to my radio show at Rice, because I've tried to just have friends, but recently had the very first show where I had strangers like coming on and interviewing them, but they were delightful as well. So far, knock on wood, like no bad experiences.
Well, I think it's because you're easy to work with, Pearce.
Yeah, maybe. We have been coworkers, so
yeah, we
do speak from experience.
He's the reason I still teach, why I didn't quit after my first year.
Really?
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
Yeah. We taught together for 2 years at Sam Houston High School and HISD. Yeah, when it was the lowest performing high school in the state of Texas.
I remember you telling me
that's not
this.
verified. We don't have the actual numbers.
I think it was
in front of us.
With as many teachers as were replaced in 1 year, I think it's safe to say.
You could just say low performing.
I think.
But the art department was doing great.
Dude, we were doing
back
great
in our little world
with our no budget. It was great.
Yeah. But we did make it through some strange years.
But yeah, those 2 years is where I also learned that you played bass.
Yeah, that was closer to the time that I played music. Because I think I caught
at least one show. And I think was it Dean's?
We did play at Dean's. I did play at Dean's one time. I didn't realize that you caught that one.
I think I caught the very tail end of that performance, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
There was some other people were on their way out, and then you must have filled one of their seats.
Suddenly opened up in there. It was
crazy. That's true. Those timelines did cross over where
just
at the end of performing. Yeah, and the woman that I performed with at that show, she's actually gone on to some measure of success, like with her music. Now she goes by Miss Bone. But it's BOAN out of Los Angeles, and she's playing at festivals of electronic music and dance and stuff like that. Like, her husband is really well known in the production world on that side of it, and sort of like programming, electronic music. And anyway, I don't know all the details of what they do, but it's good. I keep in touch with her, and she's doing great.
And was there anyone else in that group?
Yeah, originally Jason Villegas was in it, and he's a visual artist and a much better musical performer. Like, they were doing fine on their own. It was the two of them as a duo.
Okay.
And that was another kind of situation where I actually had a visual art show with Jason, because he also had an art gallery space. And I was doing a visual art show, and I made all these pieces about music, and they were all like fake album covers, 7-inch covers and stuff that I had hung up on the wall, that a lot of them I screen printed and stuff.
I remember
it was one of those
show,
things where I was just like, I always wanted to make these things, so I'm just going to make them. And it wasn't for a real band or anything. But that's how we got talking, and they were like, and they found out that I had played bass for several years, but just as a interest, like a personal interest. And then they were like, oh, well, why don't you join up with our band? And so we did play several shows together as a trio, mostly in like visual art venues and stuff, like the old Commerce Street Artist Warehouse here in Houston, which was called Seesaw. We played there, and at Jason's own space that he ran, which was upstairs from this place called the Gribble Stamp Company on the near east side, like right across from Minute Maid Park. And it was still a functional rubber stamp making company.
Straight up rubber, like old school, like.
And this was like probably in 2004 or 2005 or something.
Oh, wow.
And I actually ordered a rubber stamp from them and had one made. And
did you go downstairs to pick it up?
Yeah. And it was a crazy place because it was like one of these things on the east side. It was near Commerce Street, and it was like where both musicians but visual artists would have like these random studio spaces that they would rent for very cheap, and they would live in there. I don't know how he lived in there. Like we would be rehearsing or goofing around playing music, and he had like rats that would just like come in through the window, and they would run like along and he had kind of just befriended them and sort of like was hanging out. But it's just one of those kind of things, water leaks and drafty and broken windows and rats coming in to just visit with you and stuff. But
as long as they pay rent, it's fine.
The rats, yeah.
Sounds like the 2000s.
Contribute. But yeah, there was that type of thing. And so we did, a few shows and things, and that like sort of fulfilled my dream. I always wanted to play music in a band and play shows. So I told them that. I was like, I was really grateful. I was like, thanks for bringing me in and just letting me I just created little bass lines to go along with the stuff that they were already doing, and would just kind of play them. And, I don't know. Kind of like, I guess y'all added Helfenstein to your group, I mean, isn't that how it worked out? Like y'all were doing your thing as Brightwire, but then it was like, let's flesh out the sound a little more.
Yeah, they called me up, wanted me to do a couple of tracks on an album. And I was like, yeah, cool. And then
when Grizzly broke up, we moved in. I was like, what's up?
What's up, bro? You got a lot of free time now.
We would never do that way.
But it's working out great.
I think it's worked out pretty good for me so far.
I like y'all's sound as a trio, and
thanks.
Helfenstein brings that little Helfenstein factor to the whole
He sprinkles
experience.
the pretty. Yeah. So when did you pick up bass?
So like when I was in middle school, this was the late 80s, and in my homeroom class, there was these guys who would bring like, I don't know if it was like Guitar World magazine or something, like to class every day. And we were all looking at these BC Rich guitars that were like, they were cut in these weird shapes, like that the hair metal bands would kind of play. Like they all had like
points,
lightning bolts and stuff. Like, like very sharp points coming up. And they were like neon green, and stuff. And we were all just kind of like, oh, like I want to get this one, like I like this one. And then we started having a discussion, and one of the guys was like a drummer, and then we were all wanted to be guitar players. And then they were like, well, we need a bass player. We don't need like another guitar player. And originally my brother, he and I had talked, and I was like, well, I'm going to play guitar. And my brother was like, I'll play bass. And then I came home from school one day, and I was like, well, I'm going to play bass now. And my brother told me years later, he was like, I just felt like I was kicked out of the
band that didn't exist,
the musical realm. And so, he didn't pursue it at all. And I just like picked up the bass and started playing that. And my best friend at the time, Tristan, he got on the guitar. So it just took off from there. What we never really had consistently was a drummer.
Really?
We couldn't pin down a drummer at that time. And so eventually it came around to where I bought a drum set from Rockin' Robin and just like started playing that. So I just moved to the drum, and then our friend Kevin, who was playing, guitar, which we had the double guitar attack. He moved over to bass, and so we all kind of rearranged a little bit. But I loved playing drums too, but that was never super practical. Like you have to have the ability to practice them and not like make a lot of noise, and you got to keep them, and you got to transport them to like the thing. So I didn't ever really.
We were talking about the stand-up bass being the most inconvenient instrument, but I think probably drums are.
I think as far as there's two thought processes here. The transport of an upright bass is a total pain.
Yeah.
But the lugging in and out of a drum set, that's because these are the stand-up bass. It's one trip and you're done.
Right. That's true.
Drum set, you're like, all right, bass drum. All right, now toms. Oh, great. Now my rack. And it's like
all the stands and the carpet that it all has to go.
Oh my God!
on.
Don't forget the carpet. God help you if you forget the carpet.
Everything will fall apart.
Well, it's real. You start thumping the bass drum and it's like scooting away from your foot.
I think I'd rather be a stand-up bass player in a band than be a drummer in a band, just because all stuff you got to carry.
I would rather be in a band with a drummer than a stand-up bass player. So that takes up like a quarter.
Yeah, no,
you can get a cargo van. It's like a quarter of the van. A drum set you can break down into pieces.
Well, and then you also have to be, nothing's funnier than the first time you load the van or whatever with a double bass, right? And you get to the venue and the bridge is moved, and the bass player's like, "What? Oh my god!" And it's like it's a floating bridge. It's fine, but they don't know that, like.
Or it's even better, the horror stories where the little towing rod in there falls and the whole top collapses in. And you're like, "Oh man, was a lot of shaking on that road."
Man.
Oh, it's bad.
Yeah, it is. They're not meant to tour with.
No.
But that said, the one time that I've played drums for a show and I had to lug it was like, oh man, how many pieces is this? And I had like a little cocktail kit. I was like, this is a lot.
I still gotta unscrew all these things and put these things on it. Oh man, I'll be here all day. And by the way, if you have not seen Sam play drums yet, you need to catch that at some point.
You need to.
It is like seeing a Sasquatch in the wild.
I went and got an adult size kit. So.
I think you should have stayed on the small kit. I think the juxtaposition would have been even better. And we could have painted it like a kid's like plastic kit. That would have looked awesome.
Could just put a bunch of woodland stuff on it so it looked like I was just
Oh my god.
Like you're beating around in the forest.
So you started playing instruments in junior high.
Right.
We were also obviously probably doing art. Everyone I know who does art does it from the time they can hold a pencil, basically.
That's what I was into first from very young age. But when it came time to like get out of high school and go, I thought I was going to study music, and I left high school thinking, I was going to go to college and like study music. But when I got to the college campus, it seemed a little too real, and like it seemed like the other people that were there were a lot more established and a lot more serious like about it. And I remember at orientation, I just like left the music building and I was like, kind of, what'll I do? And I went, and the art building was just like right across the street. And I went across the street and I was just like, sign me up for classes. And when I went that first day of like art classes to drawing and stuff, I did feel a little bit behind the other kids, but it was pretty quick that I went to go buy my supplies for the class and I like smelled the art supply store and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this from when I was a little kid.
It has a smell, man.
Like the erasers and the paint and stuff.
The pastels.
Yeah, and they're just kind of like, I was like, yeah, I remember this. It's
good times.
Yeah, I can get into this. So
then you found the rubber cement and you're like, oh yeah. Liquid? I think so.
But yeah, I mean,
that's a really interesting story, the pivot from music to art.
Yeah,
but
I always
were you at in college?
In Austin.
Yeah, you're at UT?
Yeah, and so then going out and listening to music and stuff, that became like the main thing, and then that's when I found screen printing also was when I was in school after a couple of years. And when I touched upon that's when I was like, okay, this can be a bridge between these two worlds. Yeah. And screen printing just seemed like it was integrated with the music world too. So
do you find, speaking of screen printing, do you like the challenge of screen printing where the idea is to have everything almost be identical each pass? Like the challenge of that?
I do. I think if you really stick with it, you kind of, I guess it's sort of like with y'all, I don't know. I mean, this just came to my mind, but when you're on tour, you're playing those songs like every night and there's a lot of repetition with like, each version of the song that you play,
right?
Like you're kind of doing it. I like that. Like I like, visually, I like repetitive things. Like, I don't know. I'm weird like that. Like I like sheets of stamps and stuff. Like,
oh yeah, no, there's something comforting about
the way. Yeah, I like the way things look like that. So when I found screen printing and it was like, oh, we're gonna make 20 copies of this that are all the same, I was like, oh yeah. Like, yeah, I like that. But I don't know, not all artists. I mean, a lot of people just embrace the fact that there's a lot of mistakes and there's a lot of inconsistency, and they just run with that, and it turns into something really good. I don't think I'm an overly perfectionist kind of person. Like,
I've been in the studio with you when you're
definitely go wrong. Things definitely go wrong every single time.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's super frustrating, but sometimes it's like, oh, that's even better,
Right.
Didn't expect that, but it's awesome.
So, but watching you silk screen, the few times I've watched it, it's like you are a cold, calculated guy on that. Like I'm watching you, I'm like, that's gonna be way too much. That's way too much ink, right? And no, that's perfect.
I think you know, screen printing is weird for me because I love it and that's my thing in a way. I think, you know, and I've just put in so many hours to doing that. I think that's the message for like my students that I try to impart to them at the high school. It's like, if you do find that thing, you'll get really good at that thing, you know, that one thing. I'm kind of sad in my life that it didn't turn out to be music, like, because I would love to be really proficient at like a musical instrument. When I go to see shows and you see those people where it's just like they just handle the musical instrument so very well that it's just like an extension of their body or something, to get to that level of proficiency and just, you know, be good. I mean, I think music and musicians are so much cooler. Like, you don't, I mean, I think Carlos Hernandez is super cool as a screen printer, but like, you don't see a lot of like, oh, do you see that guy walk by? Like, he's a screen printer, you know? Like, there's not a rock star. But it's funny because Carlos Hernandez and his friends have formed this little group, the Outlaw Printmakers. Yeah. And they're sort of like these little rock stars of the printmaking world. And now they keep getting invited to go to different schools and they go on these little tours and
so
stuff.
See, it can happen.
Yeah, and they're sponsored by the Ink company. Speedball like takes them on these tours around. I mean, so they're like the rock stars of the printmaking world. I was going to say, that's totally
that's the thing. That's the gig. Like, what you want.
But they did it, you know, they did it the right way. It's like you put in the work and you become like so good at the thing.
Right.
And then, you get appreciated for it. But I don't know.
But then like watch like a rival ink company will find their crew like, and it'll be like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys.
I would love to see that. I would love to see the battle of the bands, but battles of the printmakers.
It'd be a Biggie Tupac thing going on.
Beef. We'd have some beef with other printmaking shops.
It's so cool.
Representing Speedball, y'all.
You go over there. You go over there and wheat paste their building with your stuff. Man. Oh, there you go.
I'm very into that. I'm into like the street art kind of thing too. You know,
I think that's one of the things that, especially with graphic art, I think that's hard. Is, you know, when we play music, people can watch us come create the music right in front of them. Where, you know, you don't get a lot of that. Where it's occasionally I've seen people do crossover acts where like musicians will play and then someone will be like paint something next to it. Which those are kind of the artists everyone's just like, oh God, you've seen him, it's amazing. Yeah. So that's kind of it. It's not as immersive. You get to see the finished product. It'd be like if we showed up and just played our record and stood there. Well, it was like, what do you think?
Well, I think it's
people would walk out.
You know, people like, I don't know, like people wouldn't be as interested in watching us practice, like creating a song, like the repetition of going through it and stuff like that. And I think it's kind of like art, though, is since it's visual, you get to see the process a little more. You know what I mean? Like there is, I think people would be more likely to tune into you working in your studio than us working in our studio trying to create. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a different, you know.
With screen printing, I think that's true, or painting or something like that. It's like more immediate. You would get that satisfaction. There's other people in the print shop that I would not watch. Like the people doing etchings and stuff. It is so slow and so repetitive. Yeah. Like they put in so much work just doing one little task.
Like on like zinc plates?
On the
I
zinc
did that
plates.
in college.
Yeah, it's so...
That's why I was turned off from printmaking. No offense to who I took printmaking from. I love what I created. But yes, it's a tedious task that takes forever.
I love the end results. I love the way those etchings look, but
to get there, it takes forever.
Just I don't want to watch that.
Paint dry.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to watch that. I don't want to listen to that. Not at all.
It's not fun. It's like if you took Bob Ross and like DJ screwed it down and it's even slower. Like that's what you would get.
Long form.
DJ Screw and Bob Ross together in the same concept.
It works.
But yeah, I mean, I jumping off of what you said about seeing bands play and perform and sort of creating the music that you're hearing. Yeah, there's something super cool about that. I mean, that's like, I'm always amazed when people tell me they're not interested in going to live music shows, because I've just, from a very young age, I also found that was like one of the things I loved, you know, going to and experiencing.
Do you remember your first concert?
Yeah, I have a few first concerts. It's funny, but y'all are asking me some questions that I kind of was like anticipating a little bit coming in here.
Oh, okay,
and
good.
So like on the drive over and stuff, I was like, what are they going to ask me? And I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out like when I got into doing this or when I got into doing that. So my parents took me, I was like a big Beach Boys fan when I was a little young kid.
Okay.
And my parents took me to the Astrodome. We saw a baseball game, and then we saw Beach Boys concert after.
What?
And this was the first concert experience I remember at all, and it was so great because I was a huge Beach Boys fan. So I guess my parents kind of started that off. but I took it to a whole new level. I don't know why. When we were driving in my dad's car or whatever, and he would play Beach Boys songs, I was just like, oh yeah, this is my thing. So I had my own, Beach Boys records and stuff at my parents' house when I was a kid, and I would play those. But yeah, they were like, Beach Boys are gonna be at this Astros game, so let's go. And I was like, oh my God. Well, we had seats like up at the top of the Astrodome. Like I remember
seats.
Way up at the top. And, when they started the concert, they had a in the round kind of stage that they put right in the middle of the baseball field. And the strangest thing to me, they had these super bright spotlights to shine, I guess, on the stage, but they put those all the way around. So throughout the whole concert, all you could see was this blinding light, shining, maybe up just to the cheap seats where we were. Maybe if you were down low, it was more cool looking or something. But I don't think I ever saw the Beach Boys. I heard the Beach Boys play live at the Astrodome, but all I saw was this like the kind of spotlights that you have in the parking lot outside, the club or something. And it was shining right in our face. But it was such a weird, I have weird memories of it. People somehow brought toilet paper rolls, and I guess maybe they got them out of the bathrooms in the Astrodome, but they were throwing rolls of toilet paper off the top deck.
Oh my
and
God.
It would just unroll and it would fly down to the bottom. And I was just like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen, as a kid. And hearing the songs, I've tried to research and it was already Brian Wilson was not there. It was during that time when he just was staying home and he was in his bathrobe, just
the sandbox,
playing 30 instruments and stuff. But yeah, the rest of the dudes were there, and so that was amazing. And then when I came a little bit more of age and I started making my own decisions, this was middle school too, a friend of mine was like, let's go to Astro World and we're gonna watch Depeche Mode and Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. That was the opening group. And
love it.
But we were in 7th grade or 8th grade or something like that, and my friend was like, my parents got the tickets, everything. All I had to do was just kind of go, and that blew me away too, because it was we went to Astro World, we rode rides and stuff, and then we went to the concert, and it was just all these kids, all these young people, high school kids. It was the whole crowd, and I thought that was super cool. There didn't seem to be any parents around.
Nice.
It was just all kids in this huge crowd, and we had hillside seats for their outdoor Starplex amphitheater.
Yes, in the back behind the accelerator.
Yeah, exactly. And so you'd be watching the band, and then a big roller coaster would be doing loops during the opening act and stuff. But it was super fun, just kind of dancing around on the grass and staying out late and getting shirts and wearing them to school. And then people were asking me, you listened to Depeche Mode, you went to this show, because I was wearing the t-shirt at middle school the next day. So that was super fun. Gosh, other than that, I don't know. After that, it was just downhill from there. I mean, another big momentous thing was when I got into high school and friends of mine started driving me into the city to go to Fitzgerald's, because we were suburban kids out on the southwest side, near Missouri City, and just didn't know about the world of nightclubs and local bands playing stuff. But then the coolest thing was at Fitzgerald's and at Zelda's, if it was a showcase of several local bands, this would have been in 1991 or 1992, they would give each band these little colored paper tickets, and they would the band would pass those out to friends or people in the neighborhood. And if you showed up at the club and you brought one of those tickets, that band sort of got credit for that door, the people that they brought in or whatever. So you were trying to get as many of those colored tickets back to the nightclub as possible.
That's how you got paid.
Yeah, and so different groups that there was a guy that lived down the street from my parents, and he was a bass player in this band. I think he was in this band called 10 Hands, but I might be confusing it with another group that we saw at Fitzgerald's. But we started going. There was a lot of these big funk inspired bands in Houston at that time. There was a group of Rice students that their band was called Sprawl, and it had these they would have big horn sections that would play, and the songs were very funky. I'm forgetting one of the groups, but another one, it's not a great name, but the band was called Retarded Elf.
Yep, remember that name.
But retarded was not spelled like retarded, it was with a T. it was like Retarded Elf. I don't know why I'm getting so detailed about that, but like these other friends in high school really loved that band, and they started taking us to those shows. It was just out of control. Like I couldn't believe that, you know, you could go to this place and the music was like right in your face. You know, you're just like feet away from the stage, but like these bands sounded like everything. It sounded like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and it sounded like Fishbone, and it sounded like all these kind of, you know, California bands that we started getting into, but it was like happening here. And then we got into like stage diving, and we got into trouble at Fitzgerald's. They had to like shut us down because, I don't know, we started this bad habit of all like climbing up on the stage and jumping off the stage. Oh God, what was the name of this group? And I'm just going to go, I won't allow myself to go off on that tangent because I forget all the names, but there was one guy that was in one of those groups, and he still like is playing to this day, like under his own name now. I'll have to think of it after we finish, you know, talking and come back to you, but it was cool. But yeah, they made us start, like, they tried to shut down. They put up all these signs that were like, no stage diving, no stage. Now as an adult, I'm like, yeah, like
Please
that
do.
makes
Oh, it's so
total
stupid.
sense. Like it was like a concrete floor, or
Yeah.
it was like, you know, or it was like upstairs, it was like hardwood or whatever. But yeah, we were just like
Not safe.
jumping off of a stage that was like maybe 5 feet high or something. And
Yeah.
it was scary, but
I love how similar all of y'all's stories are, like growing up in the Houston music scene. I hear about Fitzgerald's. I hear,
Well, I think
you know,
that was-
going to live music.
That was kind of a sad thing when that place got tore down. I mean, for generations. I mean,
Yeah.
we weren't too far apart. I think our first was like 95.
Yep.
We went to the 30-foot fall 7-inch.
Oh, my
our
God.
junior high suck 7-inch release party. That was our
Wow.
first Fitzgerald show. And
that's awesome.
should be a cool show. It's like them and Objection and Bickley, like one of Bickley's first shows.
Oh,
and
wow.
a few other people. So it ended up being like a really cool night. And but yeah, then after that it was just like, we're driving in, we're going to Fitzgerald's no
Right.
matter what. And we would just go. If we had a night off, like we're just gonna go and see.
Well, and that was the
whoever.
cool part about it is you knew that Fitzgerald's was always going to have bands.
Yeah.
So it was a good chance whatever you went to see was going to be worth your time.
Yeah, and even if they weren't, we were like, still saw them. It was cool.
Yeah.
We went and saw like somehow like a hair metal band or something that like
yeah.
a local dude showed. I was like, okay, it's what we were little punk kids expected. I was like, whatever.
No, yeah.
Walk out. What'd you think? What did you think?
Right. I don't want to commit.
Right. It's like I can't say that I kind of dug these like hair metal-y bands, but yeah, okay.
All right. I wouldn't buy their music, but
That's what's kind of cool. Listen, it's like, yeah, man, like so many people here. That was kind of like the incubator of the Houston music scene for probably, I mean, well into the 2000s.
easily. Yeah.
You know, probably up until it was torn down, people were still like, you know, it got kind of ugly there at the end, but anytime Sarah got back involved.
You're talking about
it was-
Fitzgerald's?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Sarah
'cause I
normally
moved
made
here-
it the whole, you got to bring these color tickets or you're not getting paid, or you got to
Yep.
do this, or you're going to play this show and sell 50 tickets, and then we'll give you a show that pays.
Well, yeah, no, you would have to do the Sunday matinee show that she would do. They have like 10 bands on that. And whichever one of the 10 bands brought the most people, they would be like put into a pool for the next like local show that was like on a weekend.
Yeah.
And, like you might get to open that show.
It was a lot of, how much money can you bring us with not much in return?
Right, exactly.
yeah, but you know, I feel like the bands, and I don't know for sure, but like you wanna get on stage and
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
and you want to get out there and play, and you know, I guess it's like a trade-off. You're getting to get on stage and play,
Yeah.
and you know, you're not getting paid a lot, but
Well, and it's one of those things too, is like at the time, Fitzgerald's was a place like there were going to be 20 people there just in general.
Yeah.
So
I
you
mean,
knew
there
that
were
you were getting in
different
front of people.
phases because, like, when a lot of people in the mid 90s, it was more like, you know, a different crew came in,
Yeah.
people were managing it, different manager groups. I remember Denisa, that used to be married to Rubio from 30 Foot Fall,
Yeah.
was like a big person. Robbie from Monster Soup did a lot of booking there and stuff like that. And they were bringing all these cool bands. It got to be a pretty cool little scene
yeah.
where they were bringing in like bands and then having booking locals to open and things like that.
Right.
Where it wasn't like, hey, give us $50 to play this show, and then if you can sell 50 tickets, you get your $50 back.
Well, and I thought, you know, one of the nicest things about it, especially like a lot of, you know, like venues in Houston, but especially like Fitzgerald's, they never asked for a percentage of your merch. Like anytime we ever played there, even on the cruddiest night, there was never that conversation about,
Yeah, it was the only time I've ever experienced that was at bigger venues.
yeah.
They were kind of mid-level. Like I know like Heights Theater does, or used to. I don't know
Yeah.
if they still do. A lot of that's changed in the,
Which is good.
well, yeah, definitely. But yeah, sorry, I'm like, have to be all complaining about stuff. I'm grumpy. It's after work. I'm like, "Rah, rah."
What also doesn't help is Eric's voice is very soothing. So you just want to let him talk because you're like, that's cool.
This is going to be the nighty night episode of.
We should have our own radio show together.
Right.
No, but it's cool though, just to see how everyone kind of came up in the same way. And then I'm sure moving to Austin, I mean, where did you kind of end up
it was
posting up there?
Yeah, so much fun. Liberty Lunch was a club that I just ended up going to a lot of touring shows, like not local shows, but a lot of touring shows to that venue. Hole in the Wall, which is still around.
Still there.
Like that's where the local stuff was happening. And then down on 6th Street, there was a couple of places, Black Cat, and everyone, maybe not the Ritz, but the Flamingo
Cantina?
The Flamingo Cantina.
Played there a couple times.
Yeah.
That's the weirdest stage, the shaped
Yeah,
stage
isn't
ever.
it weird?
It's kind of, because it's like an L-shaped corner of it and stuff, but
Yeah.
and then there's like you walk out the back door right there too. Only stage that was weirder was the Sidecar Pub. Did you ever play there?
That's the one that has like the load in, like beer and stuff.
The load-in was like literally behind the stage, like, and you had to do it from your truck because how tall it was. But then the bathroom doors, the girl and the boy bathroom were right off the stage.
I remember that.
Yeah, and so like you'd be going to the bathroom and
Yeah.
you'd come out and I was like, hey, guys.
Well, Fitzgerald's used to be that way, to where it was like you seriously had to fight your way through the audience to get
Yes.
to the front of the stage to go to the bathroom because it was
Yes.
like, please, I just want to, I'll go back. I just have to,
Just gotta go really
it's either happening on you or in there.
Your
Let move.
choice.
Okay.
And some of those clubs, like you don't want to get into the bathroom. Like I remember at Numbers,
Oh,
it was
man.
just like, I'll just hold it.
Yeah.
Like I'll just go home.
That
and-
must be really bad when a dude says that.
Oh, dude, Numbers has always been the sketchiest bathroom.
it was pretty wild. I don't.
Fitzgerald's was bad too.
Yeah.
It looked
Downstairs,
Like, it looked like part of a condemned building that they just tacked on to Fitzgerald's.
dude, the whole back part where the backstage area upstairs,
Yeah.
that's even sketchier.
You know,
It was all going to
remember
fall
hearing
down before
stories.
they pushed
Oh,
it
man.
down anyway.
then they finally, I guess it had already always been there. I remember they fixed the bathroom at the back of the room.
Yes.
And it was a little better. It wasn't like holes punched in the walls. And
Wait, but do you remember like all the times they would have the benefits there to pay for an elevator? Remember that? Because that was the biggest complaint was
Oh,
like
yeah.
the staircase
Yeah.
to load in was
Oh,
on the
yeah.
outside.
Yes.
And they'd have the, so they raised money, but they never put in an elevator.
no, they just never got enough. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
Just came up short.
Oh,
What are we going
man.
to do with all this money? I remember
Fix
once.
the back bathroom.
A lot of people don't know Rudyard's had an elevator.
Yeah.
And I remember I've been there
remember that.
once when it was functional.
Did you?
Luckily for Scott H. Byram, it was functional. That's right after he broke his last leg.
Oh, God.
He'd broken like every other appendage, and he just broke his last leg, just got to where he could walk again. You know, he's carrying like the 18-inch Sherwin Vegas subs and stuff. And he comes up, and I'm like, how did you bring him up there? He's like, there's an elevator. I was like, whoa, it worked? Like, I've heard stories of this.
I've
Like,
heard a story of this elevator.
people have seen, I've heard legends that this existed.
I've seen very out of focus photos of this, but I didn't know it exists. I'd be scared to get in that elevator.
Well, I don't think I think it's like more of a cargo. You just put everything on it.
Yeah, you don't ride it.
And then you go upstairs.
Yeah, right.
If my speakers happen to fall, it's like, well, you know, they'll.
Well,
suck.
because Rutgers has that scary load-in steep staircase.
Jesus. no
And I can
kidding.
tell you this, an 810 Ampeg cabinet gets a lot of speed when it slides down that staircase.
Oh, my God.
And that door that's at the bottom of that staircase, it's meant to last because it did not break through that door.
Oh,
Glad there was nobody on the stairs underneath it.
That
Good
was
Lord.
that was good too. Yeah.
that's why the last couple of shows I played bass there, I was like, I'm bringing this Sans amp. It'll sound fine through the house speed
I'm going to
system.
line in on this bad boy.
Like, you want to play bass for us at this show? It's like, if I don't have to bring an amp.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So real quick, before we get too far off, I'm
Yeah.
thinking, because we had you do the poster for us, and I've since then learned, is it vectorizing? What is it when you have it redraw in Photoshop?
Illustrator?
Somebody did the prep for that. I think
That was-
did Dan
I think Dan
actually?
did that
yeah,
for us.
Dan like prepped it from taking the original art to just getting it ready for me to
Layered
do
it.
it. But all I do is I take the stuff and burn them onto transparencies and then onto the screen. So
Okay.
I think it was like prepped
Yeah.
for me.
I was wondering, because I was like, there's certain tips that people need to follow, which I did on that, and you know.
Yeah, from what I understand, I mean, I wish I was better with the digital type stuff, but all my design people talk about, vector graphics.
Yeah, because when you
and,
vectorize it allows you to
You
So
can
it makes it
blow it up.
redraw where like it makes it
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It's an important thing to people.
Very
so we get
important.
people ask us a lot of questions for like functionality things. And I figured having someone who does artwork, who has done artwork for bands,
Well, and it saves
what's
you
some
money.
good things to point out that when you get times you've done things for bands, like things that's like, I wish they had done that, or if they did this.
Yeah, that's a big one because people will send, the graphics they want, like the band name or the show info and stuff, just in files that don't work, they don't translate. You try to make a poster size thing out of it and it just completely breaks down and turns kind of to garbage, and then you would have to kind of really do a lot to make it work. But I think Dan did all the work
Yeah,
in advance, and all I did was kind of do the squeegeeing and the ink and stuff. But
we made the screens too.
yeah,
And that's the hard job.
I know someone who done t-shirt stuff for years, watching that day at your station was like, hey, I'm done. I'm just going to wash out the screen. And it was like everything. I was like, wow.
I know.
I was like, this is how the other half live. Like, this is what
This is how professionals do it.
professionals like.
Well, and the best part was, I'll never forget, Dan Torres had screens made for some stuff that he was doing, and he, did his inking and got done, and he went to clean everything off, which you do, but he used hot water, and it
just took the
erases
stencil
everything
right out.
Yep.
Yeah, depending on how you originally create those stencils, just the heat can just whoosh, take them off.
Yep.
But it's rare that you would have a hot water source that you would like.
Well, a brewery does.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't even hot water. It was like,
Like
brewery
scalding
hot
hot
water.
water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we learned something valuable that day, kids.
Yeah,
Try to use cooler water.
That's a
to
big
clean
lesson.
Clean your screens.
that's a lesson. No, I kind of like the bootleg, DIY style of screen printing and doing merch and doing all that. It kind of forces you to be creative with what you're doing, and kind of gives it a nice handmade kind of homegrown feel to it,
Heck yeah.
instead of things being so slick.
Well, I think what's nice about me being friends with you is when I have crazy ideas of like, hey man, can you make me 12 individual shirts that I can take on tour for every show on this tour, and then I'll give them out to people. And
That
you
was
do
really
it.
fun.
That was cool. And I still have people that contact me they still have those shirts.
That was a fun project.
Yeah. It got really cool. And by the time we got to the last few dates of the tour, people were already aware that I was doing that. And so they were seeking me out hey, you can get that shirt too when you're done.
That's really cool. I like those crossovers between making the artwork and the band stuff and going on tour. I wish more bands would do goofy stuff like that. That's just
I'm
off
your
the
guy.
wall.
I'm your
and-
Huckleberry for this.
Yeah, that's I always like that.
Just finding someone, with the skills to do such things, or the patience.
Or the free time.
I
Right.
just know so many bands
All
that
those things.
partner with artists. When you said that, I was thinking about Pentagram String Band and their comic books.
Yeah.
Or just seems like everybody's got something.
Well, it kind of goes that way. I feel like by and large, artistic people are more giving of their services because I know that people, it's just people who dig what you do. It's like, hey man, I'd love to be involved and do this. And it's like, okay,
That's true.
great. And, even looking back through a lot of bands, there are a lot of bands out there where their art is just as important to their legacy as their music was.
Right.
I mean, for as cool as, everyone's like Pink Floyd this, but I mean, the Storm Thurgeson stuff, everyone knows, you know?
Iconic.
Yeah. And then you look at, Raymond Pettibon with Black Flag. I mean, dude, that stuff's all the SST releases, he did so much stuff for Minutemen and stuff like that, where it's his artwork transcended all of that, where people were just more like, what's going to be on the cover of this record? Or what flyer is he going to do for this?
And that's the thing too, is people get that connection and they see that art and I know that artist, and so then they go down that rabbit hole of what that artist has done also. And so it's a very symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. I mean, you go back to Andy Warhol and the Velvet Underground and things like that. I mean, it's always been they go very well. Because like I say, you have so much visual from, video illustrations to artwork, t-shirts, flyers. It's kind of cool. It's what's good to have you here and talk about that, because it's so much of it intertwines.
Yeah, and I think for local bands, it's fun to see how local bands come up with art connections and what they do. And quite often there's people in the band that's also doing that kind of visual arts stuff.
Yeah. And again, I guess it just goes to creative people just are creative in general. And it's not just one thing. Because me, I teach art, I do art, but I spend a lot of time doing music. You know,
But you also don't contribute much art-wise to our. You let the guy who's like sitting there with his like crayons, like I made a stick figure. This is great. No, I'm just playing. Just being mean to health. Did do some killer van artwork for the all group for our Griftwire tour.
Yeah.
The times I've twisted his arm like I can fucking do this Helfestein.
it's the thing is getting me to focus long enough and to finish something. Like I'm notorious for like starting ideas. Like he can tell you. Like I'll start these cool ideas. Like we had this whole when we were teaching together. Like we had this idea of like, what is Bob Ross like off camera? And we just went down this rabbit hole one day, and we were both like, yeah, he probably like has like this rag filled with like what is
Mineral
it?
spirits.
And he's just like huffing it. And so like I got a piece of scratch board and I knocked out this little doodle and I gave it to him, and he's like, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like
it really looks awesome. It looks like a piece of like 70s
it does.
like acid artwork. But it's like a portrait of Bob Ross wearing like flared jeans or something, just like,
and his rolled up shirt sleeves. It's just like, and in his hand, he's got his hands like this, and one of his hands draped the rag.
What movie is that? It's not Blue Velvet, is it? Where the dude has the ether. He's always like huffing ether.
oh yeah, Blue Velvet.
Yes.
Blue Velvet.
Yes.
Well, he's got like a little tank of nitrous that he's just like,
Yeah.
just huffing off of that.
You know, gotta come party. Gotta be ready to go.
Boy, do you.
Well, like you said, as soon as you walk into Texas Art Supply, you know
where you're at. You know you're home.
Where's the ether? What aisle is the ether on?
Sir, we don't carry that anymore. That's been outlawed in 48 states.
You know, paint thinner's just as good.
Ventilation, never heard of it.
Oh my God.
All right. Well, before we close it out, I guess we'll do the question.
We'll do the question.
We're going to
Series
call
of
the new
questions.
segment the
You ready for the question?
I'm ready for the question.
Question segment.
The question is, give us a list
Yeah.
with 3 bands, local bands, that you think people should know more about. Like they should go research and listen to.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. I actually wore one of the t-shirts to remind myself, but I have my Young Mammals t-shirt on. I don't think they really need my plug because they're doing quite well for themselves. But yeah, Young Mammals.
Okay.
It's like sort of like a shoegaze rock kind of, but I love their sound. They're great.
Lauren from El Lago's been playing bass with them.
Yep.
I remember playing with them at Super Happy Funland when they were the Dimes. So
Super Happy Funland. That's
there's a
old
I
school,
forgot about
original,
I forgot
original
about
location.
that. Yeah. I forgot about that place for a minute. The Wiggins is a guy named John Reed, who is a visual arts guy. He's one of the people that I would love to have on my radio program too, because he definitely has both worlds going on. He's an awesome sculptor and painter, and has this cool music project, which is his band The Wiggins, and it's just like real old like blues from one of those tin can phones or something, like string and tin. That's what it kind of sounds like, but it's really, really cool. And maybe Hearts of Animals. I know they sort of did a gig recently, but I'm not sure if they're still playing around. But it's also kind of like a dream pop sort of thing that I like them a lot. But I just recently went to a local hip hop show. A guy called Tame. It's like TAME, which is like an acronym for the Aspiring Me, and his performance was really great. Like I'm looking forward to. I think he was mentioning that like some music's going to come out sometime soon. So Tame, I'm going to be watching out for that because the energy was just great. The lyrics were great. Just the music was awesome. So looking forward to that as well. I feel like I'm forgetting more, but that's kind of all over the place too. Garrett T. Caps and NASA Country.
Oh, dude,
I love some Garrett T. Caps and NASA Country from San Antonio. I've been going to their shows recently because they actually have a visual artist in their band who does like the electronic portion, kind of the most NASA kind of portion of the country rock that they do. And he's friends of friends, so I've been checking out their shows, and I really enjoy them a lot as well.
Right on.
Thank you so much, y'all. Thanks for having me in to chat.
Very
And then before we go, give us information. Mixed Media Radio.
Oh, Mixed Media Radio is on Saturdays from noon to 1 p.m. You can listen at KTRU.org. That's KTRU.org. Or if you're real close to the Rice University area, you can listen to 96.1 FM. But it's a low power radio station, and it only reaches maybe a few miles on all sides of Rice University. So you got to be close to get the FM version.
Very cool.
Well, cool, man. Thanks for coming.
Thank y'all so much. Appreciate it.
Bye.
All right, y'all, that's it for episode 30, man. We hope y'all really enjoyed it. It was really fun to sit down and talk to Eric. Make sure you listen to his mixed media radio show from 12 to 1 p.m. on KTRU, 96.1 FM in Houston. And if you're online, KTRU.org. Again, if you like the podcast, make sure you tell a friend, get the word out, help us get the word out about everything, man. We really appreciate that. Make sure you follow people, Mixed Media Radio on Instagram. Get out there, just support, man. Make things happen. Support really is one of the biggest things you can do, because as weird as it is, it's a social media game for a lot of us. So just get out there, follow, show up to some stuff, have some fun. So we'll see you in the future. If you made it all the way to the end, we got a surprise for you. We're going to drop our January single right here a little early. This one's called Threatening to Rain. Hope y'all dig it. See y'all next time. Bye-bye.
And it's threatening rain. The gravel road hums under her wheels, and those mile markers add up, but it don't change how she feels. The dust clouds grow, but she never wanes, and it's getting dark now, and it's threatening rain. Strikes for the blink of an eye. It lights up all our fears, the things we'd rather hide. The thunder cracks so loud that it shakes us to our core. Let's watch away our doubts as the rain starts to pour. Yeah, watch away our doubts as the rain starts to pour. He's not